If you've been wondering how to franchise your business or how to take your franchise company to the next level, then this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Tom Dufour, CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team, and on our episode today, we are going to do a webinar replay that originally we had a live webinar on August 6th, 2021, and we interviewed Grant Ferguson, and then Craig Johnson joined us a little later. He actually had some technical difficulties of joining us, and they work for a company that provides unsecured loans. It's called the Unsecured Funding Source, and I was really interested to have them on the show because it provides options to prospective franchisees, or maybe for you in franchising your business, or getting some maybe marketing funds or whatever you might be looking to do with the cash to help grow your business. And it's all unsecured. They've got this whole system in place. And I thought it was really interesting because it's a great additional alternative to consider instead, in lieu of, or in addition to, I should say, maybe the SBA, a conventional loan, partners, or a retirement rollover. So let's go ahead and jump right into the webinar for you to go ahead and listen to it here.
Thank you very much for having me, hopefully having us. Craig hopefully will be joining us shortly. But Grant Ferguson is my name. I'm the CEO with Unsecured Funding Source, or UFS if you're short on time and you want to say it quickly. Tom, I've been with UFS about 8 months, actually. I joined late last year. I've got a long career in banking and financial services and consulting. I actually ran marketing at JP Morgan Chase's mortgage division for a while, and I've done a lot of consulting with Wells Fargo and B of A and regional banks and credit unions and so forth. And I was just looking for an opportunity to join a niche lender that I thought had a lot of great growth prospects and just a lot of great products and services that met needs and gaps in the market. And I just felt UFS really fit the bill because we're very, very focused, almost exclusively focused on the business startup, franchise purchase, and business acquisition market, and increasingly helping individuals to find creative ways to get money to purchase a franchise and to go through, in many ways, a life transforming event is really what we live for. And as you had mentioned, we do offer some alternatives to SBA loans and rollover business startup programs and other programs that we think are very, very attractive. So that's a little bit of my background, but excited to be here with you today. And thanks for asking us to join.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Grant. And what I'd like to do, the audience, and I've just kind of looked through some of the attendees that are on here, I'd like for us to look at this from 3 different vantage points for folks who are attending and just clients and people we work with. Vantage point number 1 is that business owner that's franchising their business and is looking to is looking maybe for some operating capital, maybe to invest in marketing, maybe to fund some other part of their early on franchise venture. Perspective number 2 is for the franchisor that's maybe looking for additional funding to say, hey, I have franchisees that maybe would have bought into the system at some point, but I just didn't have that in place. And then perspective number 3 is the franchisee's perspective. We just had Ali comment, I'm launching a brand new product or service franchise. Right. So probably those first 2 are our audiences that either emerging brand entrepreneur that's starting to franchise their company, or that franchisor that's maybe looking for a little funding to get things going. So I'd love for you to maybe talk through from those perspectives here. Hey there, Craig.
Hey, sorry about the background.
Yeah. Well, so Craig, we're just jumping into this here, asking Grant, and so to fill you in, that we're looking at this really from 2 primary vantage points for you to talk through. Vantage point number 1 is the the new franchisor. So an entrepreneur or business owner that's starting to franchise their business and is looking for funding to maybe grow their franchise system. And then the second perspective is from the franchisor that is looking to either bring on some franchisees that their franchisees need some funding, or maybe just a franchisee in the network is looking to expand and need some extra working capital. So I'd love for you to talk through it from one or both of those perspectives before we go today.
Yeah, so I think Grant probably is best for this type of thing, and then I'll handle kind of a Q&A if that works okay.
Sure.
Sounds good. Good to see you, Craig.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Grant.
So yeah, we work with both of those audiences, Tom, pretty regularly, and then also the third one that you indicated, emerging franchise brands and working maybe strategically with a company that wants to begin to roll out a brand without a lot of potential track record and so forth. But in talking to sort of franchisees, kind of taking the first audience, what we find is that many of them are sort of disappointed or frustrated, or have had some of their attempts to get financing from other sources foiled. And we're not here in any way to, although the title of the webinar is Alternatives to SBA or ROBS, we're not here in any way to say anything negative about those programs. But what we do find is often a franchisee will, as you well know, have a number of elements that are required in order to get going and get started. There's a franchise fee that needs to be paid. There's often the cost of capital. Once the cost of equipment, maybe there's an equipment lease that needs to come into play. And then there may also be a need for working capital for fixtures and fittings, and also just to get things going and to pay salary and to have expense ahead of revenue, as well as to cover your own personal burn rate. And so there's a lot of things that franchisees are looking for to kind of get the comfort level to make the leap. And we may work with multi-unit folks, but we're primarily talking here about, an individual that is either expanding or starting afresh. So we're finding folks that have gone maybe a ways down the road with, some alternatives around funding, secured and collateralized forms of funding, and maybe have hit a dead end. Maybe there have been some changes in guidelines, regulations. Maybe the bank they're working with is not perhaps doesn't have a large volume of SBA, and then maybe isn't fully familiar and hasn't briefed them appropriately as to some of the things that they're going to need, and they discover this much further down, much further down the road, and they're looking for some alternatives. And that's where we really shine. And we've had many opportunities to come in and really save deals and help people get that money. The other thing that we find is that maybe they have taken advantage of a ROBS program, and they've tapped out their 401k, or they've done a rollover, and yet they still need some additional funds, right? And for the same reasons, they might still need funds for the actual buy-in, or they might just need funds to really get the business up and running. And so we can be very complementary in that sense, where maybe it wasn't enough, or there wasn't the comfort level to fully drain the retirement savings. And so, they're looking to take some loans and looking for some alternate forms of capital. So in any of those instances, we feel we're really offering a great alternative, and we're able to get people moving forward. In terms of working with the franchisors or the ZORs, if you want to be hip about it, we will work directly with brands and be very much a part of their packages and their program, and be presented as a preferred lender. And in many cases, we're able to help meet all of the needs of the franchisor buy-in. Or again, we can work in conjunction. So there's a fitness franchise that we're working with right now, where again, we're not able to had about, I believe, 15 candidates, and some issues arose with SBA guidelines and with a particular lender. And they were looking at about 15, entrepreneurs, that some of whom were ready to rock and roll, some of whom had a spouse that had quit their job, who were going to be left without a franchise. And so we creatively worked with the brand to find an equipment leasing solution to cover the cost of the fittings and the equipment, And then in conjunction with UFS, we were able to find the rest of the capital for them to buy in and get moving, and rather than stalling that out. So just a couple of examples how we work, kind of with both of those audiences you outlined.
Sure. Great. And thank you. And, just how does the process work? I mean, we've talked, kind of at a high level, but I mean, I am listening in, but just for the attendees' sake here too, because I've had some of the presentation, but how does it work? Like, what's the next level? Some of the detail involved that does make it a little different and unique to what you're doing.
Greg, would you like to take that question?
Sure, no problem. So, the great thing about our process is how simple it is. It's essentially credit score and income driven. Unsecured credit history too, obviously, definitely matters. From an underwriting standpoint, we're looking at somebody's credit score. We're looking at their current highest unsecured limits. We're looking at what type of unsecured limits have they had in the past. How have they handled those limits? And then we're looking at their income. What type of loan can their income support? Sometimes that's going to be about 50% of their annual income. So somebody who makes 100,000, we might be able to get them 50,000. But what we'll do is we'll get them 3 or 4 chunks. So if they want 200K, we might get them, 4 separate $50,000 loans. That's really an unknown thing. I find that a lot of clients out there are unaware that they can take more than one option. Once we put together sort of a pre-qualification, we present it to our lenders, and usually we can get them approved within about 3 or 4 business days. Money in their hands, usually about anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks later.
Great. And how does this work in terms of, so it makes me think about the credit card program. Is this, if anyone who's kind of been in franchising for a little while has been presented the idea where you at some point a franchisee is considered getting a bunch of credit cards and doing some cash advances for this quote unsecured loan. So is that what we're talking about with what you're doing?
No, not at all. What we do is regular loans and lines of credits. We don't offer credit cards unless it's like sort of a last ditch effort. Somebody who may be self-employed, they can't verify, their income. Maybe they make 200K a year, but they write that all the way down to, 20 or something like that. That type of scenario would be a credit card funding based scenario, but everything else is going to be regular unsecured term loans where they might get $100,000 deposited into their account with a 5-year term, a fixed interest rate, and, have a dependable payback, not a credit card.
Okay. That's great. I mean, I think that's really unique. And what does this look like in terms of? We've got some questions coming in. I'll read through those in a second here. But is there any specific system or program? So for maybe a small business that wants to add this in, do they need to review the business? What's that review process look like for maybe a non-startup that's maybe looking for working capital?
Yeah, so it really just depends on their business particulars. You need to have 2 years in business. So that is a sort of set in stone, minimum term there of time in business. But once you do, we can certainly do business loans, business lines of credit as well. Business needs to have revenue, needs to be profitable, and then also needs to be an industry friendly business. That's sort of a moving target these days on what's industry friendly and what's not. Perfect example, though, is forever, and don't ask me why, but banks have just not liked trucking companies, as an example, sort of an industry not friendly business. So in those cases, we'll just get those clients personal loans as well as lines of credit. But somebody who owns a franchise that, maybe a restaurant or a car wash or, whatever it is, those are definitely industry friendly when we can go business as long as their business qualifies.
Okay, great. And so how then would clients kind of qualify? What's a process for you guys? What does all of that look like?
Once a client applies with us, we do a very quick soft pull on their credit. We get their income figures. If they own a business, we get those financials as well. Oftentimes they can state them to us. We don't actually need to verify it at that point. They give us the particulars on what they're looking for, as well as their parameters, their business, how much they make, what type of business and whatnot. Within a matter of hours, we can usually get them a pre-qualification. And if they like it, we go from there. We go ahead and get it applied and get the ball rolling for them.
Okay. And so some questions that have come in here from Ali, it sounds like his franchise system is about a 1.25 million investment. He's got some assets that are part of it. And it sounds like from some of his comments, he may have it be in an industry that would be considered potentially unfriendly, or based on what you're saying. So is there any way you could share maybe some more detail to see if your program would be a fit for maybe a higher initial investment in the franchise world, and what maybe talk more about being, friendly, industry friendly?
Sure. So what our program works the best for, not necessarily those large, $1 million businesses. We sort of have a niche below what the SBA will touch usually. Anywhere between 350 and below. Keep in mind, these are totally unsecured funds. People are not providing collateral. They're not putting their house on the line. They're not putting their 401k on the line. No UCC filing on their business assets, nothing. Totally unsecured. Because of that, though, it's a more conservative program where we're not able to get $1 million as an example. Now, what people will do, though, is they will take our money, combine it with some other type of funding to come up with a total of what they're looking for. Sometimes that'll be ROBS, sometimes that'll be an SBA loan, sometimes it's a real estate where they need 20% down, and we can help them with that part. So in terms of the industry friendly, again, that's really a moving target. It's hard to say, but most franchises are going to be industry friendly. Things that aren't are going to be real estate businesses, trucking companies. Restaurants are kind of tough because of COVID, they got really tough there for a while. I think that'll come back. Any franchise, though, with a proven model is going to be more industry friendly than one of those other businesses, as an example.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. So it sounds like what you're saying is, hey, if you're really interested and you think your business might be questionable on this, industry friendly idea, they need to maybe have a conversation with you guys, and you kind of take it from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're happy to just answer questions. Our program, we hope, is a fit for everybody, but obviously sometimes it's not. And we're happy to help them find solutions. If we're not the solution, I've been doing this 17 years, so have a lot of experience in the industry in general. Even if it's not exactly what we do, I can at least point them in the right direction, maybe come up with a game plan that works for everybody.
So, one of the questions I always have, guys, this sounds too good to be true, right? It's like, why isn't this around? Why isn't this, which was part of my hesitation when we first met. I'm like, this sounds, so many clients I've worked with over the years and currently work with, and I know will work with, and prospective franchisees over the years. This is exactly what they've described they would ideally like to find. And maybe, to your point, it might not fund the whole initial investment or everything that they're looking for. But there is a little bit of, is this too good to be true? What's the catch? So how do you respond to that if someone asks you?
Yeah. So, there's no catch. I've been doing this 17 years, as I mentioned. It's been around for 17 years. I've never done things like this, these webinars. So just like gotten out there, So, but,
sure.
The only catch would be that these are unsecured loans. They're hard to qualify for, right? So it's not going to be a fit for everyone. You got to have a minimum 700 credit score. You got to have verifiable income. You need to have a not illustrious, but a fairly robust credit profile. You need to have those qualifying factors. You need, if it's a business, it's got to be industry friendly. You have to have revenue. You have to show profit. You can't have a loss, things like that. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to qualify for. I guess that would probably be the only catch, if you ask for one.
And, Tom, just to piggyback on that as well, as I mentioned, I'm fairly new to the company. Craig's been doing this, a lot longer than I have. But when I first started and looked at joining UFS, I thought, well, surely people could just go do this on their own. Like, there's so many lending options out there today, from the lending trees and the lending clubs of the world. Couldn't somebody just jump online and do exactly what we're going to do for them? Well, the short answer is, like we quickly discovered, is no, they can't. So there's knowing which lenders to go to. There's knowing how to sequence applications. There's knowing a lot of ins and outs and depth of expertise around different lenders' underwriting criteria and the way they look at borrowers. There's knowing, as Craig had mentioned, the kinds of details around the type of business people are buying, the use of funds, whether they're personal loans, whether they're business loans. So it's that sort of gap in expertise where we bring a lot of value, and we actually get people 3, 4, 5 or more times the money than they could actually get on their own, and do it without damaging their credit score, and do it in ways that aren't going to make it difficult for them to get additional financing and funding. So I just wanted to add that one of the things I think you had mentioned is, we've never heard of this before. People are familiar, obviously, with unsecured lending and personal loans and business loans. But what's unique about what we do is the way we package it, the way that we work with our clients and give them very highly customized, high-touch service. So you might be applying online, but you're going to be talking to a human being that has been at this for 10, 15 or more years and really knows what they're doing and can act as a navigator through the process. That's a big piece of where we add value.
Mm. And so for things like this, then how do your fees work? How is all of that structured? Is it a fee for service? Is it, how does how does all of that go?
I guess
Craig,
I'll
I gave you an opportunity to take a breath, so you're up again.
So our fees, we work on strictly a commission basis. Our success is our client's success, or lack of it is the same. So we charge a standard fee of 9.9% of the loan amount. Depending on the loan size, sometimes we will reduce that. If somebody's looking for $350,000 and we can actually get them that, then obviously we're going to work with them on the consulting fee. However, our standard fee is 9.9% of the loan amount, only payable once they have funds in their hands. So A, they can use the money that we get them to cover the fee. That way it's essentially built in. And B, if they don't like the offers that we get for them, they don't have to accept them. They owe us absolutely nothing if they don't. We're not like other companies. I know some of the credit card stackers out there. If they get you the card, you're getting billed for it. Even if it's a $2,000 card at 27% interest, you're getting billed for it. That's not at all how we operate. Our loans are always presented to our clients. They get the option whether or not to accept them. If they don't like them, they don't take them. They owe us absolutely nothing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And talk about, you mentioned the timeline a little bit there, but like you said, it's a week or two to qualify. And how does all of that work again?
Yeah, so not a week or two to qualify. It's usually we can get them a pre-qualification literally in a matter of hours. If you, Tom, come to me and say, hey, I want to borrow $200K, I want to buy a Jimmy John's franchise, we would get, hey, how much money do you make? How's your credit? Are there any co-borrowers? We get all the particular information that we need. You don't even have to verify your income at that point. We can just go off of a stated income. We can get you a pre-qualification. That's based on my 17 years of doing this and nothing but these types of loans. I'll say, hey, Tom, we can't get you 200, but we can get you 150 to 175. Does that still work okay for you, or whatever that amount is? And then it's up to you whether or not you want to move forward. If you like it and you want to move forward, we'll go ahead and we'll get you applied through the process. That's where it takes about a week or two, is to actually get that money in your hands.
Okay. Interesting. Well, it's really unique, and I'd love to open things up to the attendees here. If there are any specific questions, I know Ali, you've typed a bunch in the chat box. We've tried to answer some of them here, but if there is a specific question or comment, I can unmute the group here if you'd like to do that. So just use the hand raise feature or where it says raise hand down at the bottom there. Just click that and I'll unmute you so you can ask some questions to Grant and Craig while we have them. Or type it in the chat box, whichever you'd prefer. Type it in the chat box or the Q&A, whichever you prefer.
I wanted to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, was somebody asking a question?
Yeah, someone was going to ask a question. But
sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, Ali, you're on there. You're live.
Hello, guys. This is very helpful. Great business, and thank you for all the insights. I'm launching a business in the oil and gas business, and we basically are selling a Batmobile kind of a truck to the franchisee. And we are pretty well funded as a franchisor. I want to find out how established or mature this business of lending is to the franchisee, because what we want to do is build a model by which the franchisee gets funded easily. So we go to franchisees that can, let's say, put up $250K, and we borrow as much as we can from SBA, say $300K. And the difference, we split it with the UFS. So $350 UFS, and we from our balance sheet can collateralize or, put up the money until the franchisee can pay everybody. And it's a very, very profitable business. It's a payback less than a year of their investment, and a 50% EBITDA going forward every year. So it's a cash cow. They can pay, so we're almost agnostic to the rate on the loan. Given that, what I want to find out is how mature is this industry. If, let's say, our franchise gets to $1 billion of this kind of financing, can we go to Wall Street? They can securitize this, create asset classes for money managers, etc.
That's actually a pretty good question. Honestly, it's above my pay grade. It's not really what we do. We act as a arranger of the financing. Once we get somebody that $350K in financing, what they do with those loans from then on is between them and the actual lender. So I'm not sure if those loans get sold or built into a portfolio or anything like that. They are unsecured loans. Keep in mind, they're non-collateralized, so I don't know that they're quite as sellable as like a mortgage would be. Maybe Grant might be a little better qualified to answer this type of question, so I'll let him jump in here.
Yeah, I think it's, thanks, Craig. And Ali, I think what you're talking about is really interesting, and I think it represents some of the creative thinking that's happening in the industry today around financing. It's very traditionally been franchise brand talks to franchisee set. When you get to the conversation around financing, they say, we work with these lenders, go talk to them, right? And so being a little bit more involved as a brand or as an emerging franchise brand as you are, which sounds really interesting, by the way, there are a lot of creative things that I think are happening, including a conversation I had recently around taking warrants or equity as a lender, almost sort of like a lighter capital, although that's non-dilutive financing, but being an alternate to VC or an alternate investor and having some asset classes and looking for reinvestment or looking how to kind of make that a security that can be marketed. I think we would be really interested in at least chatting with you and exploring some options. We're not going to be able to cover that in the next 60 seconds here or whatever we have left. But perhaps if we could get your contact details through Tom, or if you wanted to email Grant@theufs.com or Craig@theufs.com, we could pick up and have a more detailed conversation and maybe brainstorm a little bit with you. How does that sound?
Very much so. I will delegate it to Tom. He'll arrange for it. And yes, I come from venture debt business, and I come from Wall Street. So I think it's a golden goose, or these are breadcrumbs you're leaving on the table. This can be a total addressable market, several $1 billion. And I know Zurich Re and a bunch of reinsurers are interested to have this dialogue.
Don't disagree at all. As Craig said, it's not our traditional model of what we've done, but hey, you asked a question I read in the chat about how are you looking to grow, and how are you looking to change in the industry? And these are things, unless you are open to new ideas, then you may not end up changing, right? So definitely would look forward to a chat with you. And by the way, Craig, sorry, I gave the wrong email address, CJO@the UFS. But yeah, Tom, if you don't mind.
We'll get you guys connected for sure. And I was curious. Yeah, and I'm curious too. Ali, you asked some interesting questions. Is there any potential? I don't know if this would actually make sense, but I'm thinking, Ali, based on your question, if you're doing enough volume through what you're doing, I mean, I would imagine that I've seen that a lot of franchisors do this as they grow in size. They eventually in-house their own funding for franchisees. So they'll kind of create their own in-house version. I don't know if it's exactly what Craig and Grant, what you guys do, but I've seen something like that where the franchisor actually basically becomes kind of the banker. They're self-funding the franchisees through a loan to the franchisees of some kind, oftentimes unsecured, or the franchisor knows that if for some reason the franchise doesn't work out, there are some assets that they reclaim and then they can reuse with other franchisees that join the system. But again, I've usually seen that after a franchise brand's pretty mature, they usually have 200 plus franchises, and oftentimes many more than that once they start going that direction.
You're absolutely right, Tom. And that's the direction. We will be there in about 3 to 4 years. So this is a $200-300 million business. And But most franchisors, if they're smart, they don't want to be in a banker business.
Right.
Today, money is cheap. You want to bring in insurance and reinsurance guys, venture debt guys. You can do this, at teen levels, 12 to 18%. You don't need to deploy your capital in this business. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, but in the meantime, while you're building and initially getting there, it sounds like USF is doing can be this is an option for emerging and growing brands of any size, whether it's an independent, franchisor, franchisees. This is an option for consideration, right? And Craig, I like how you said that this is something that maybe the franchisees combine with other things. There might be the ROBS program might be utilized, or maybe a conventional loan or an SBA loan, and then this gets coupled with that as part of the process. So I like the flexibility that you offer, and just again expanding that option, or maybe for that new franchisor that's looking to put $30,000 or $40,000 in use for some marketing to attract prospective franchisees or something in that regard. Great. Well, do we have other questions for Craig and Grant while we have them on the line? I haven't seen any other hands raised or anything come up. So while we're waiting to see if any other questions come up, Craig or Grant, is there anything else you'd like to leave with the audience before we close out for the day?
The only thing I would add in there is just the thing that makes us unique as UFS, in my opinion, and Grant sort of touched on that, but I'll expand, is when you go on LendingTree or Lending Club or Prosper or Best Egg or any of these online websites, you're getting a computer. You're applying, you're getting maybe a pre-approval. Everything is done electronically. You don't know if it's the best option for you. You're not getting anybody, holding your hand throughout the process. you're not getting an advocate, you're getting a lender, and that's it. Our service is really, obviously we want to get people the money that they need, but B, and almost equally as important, is we want to get them the best options. I don't want to get them an option that's not, if I know I've got 7% from this lender and 10% from that lender, well, I want to get them into the 7%, so we are their advocate. We're going to hold their hand, start to finish. We're going to make sure that they get what they need at a rate that they can afford, and build a relationship with the client as well. We hope to be able to be an information source for them as well. I mean, this is the type of loan we do, and I've been doing this 17 years, but I've got a pretty good level of industry-wide experience. Like I said, if I don't have the answer, if I can't be the answer, at least I can be an information source and help people, come up with a game plan to figure out whatever issue they're trying to solve. So that's really the difference between us and like just applying online. Is you get us. We hold your hand start to finish. We make sure you get every penny you need at the absolute best possible rates.
Yeah. Well, great, guys. Well, I appreciate it. And part of the reason we wanted to have you on this webinar series, Moving Beyond the Coronavirus Economy, is to let folks know that there are additional options. So if you are a franchisor looking to help your franchisees get funding, this is another arrow to add into your quiver. It may not be, it's probably not your only option, nor would we recommend it be the only option. You need to provide franchisees options, or prospective franchisees, or even for your own business and things that you're doing and growing. Craig and Grant, thank you both so much again for being on the show. I greatly appreciate you being a guest on our webinar. What an awesome interview. And if you guys who are listening have any interest in learning more about their company, it's called Unsecured Funding Source. It's unsecuredfundingsource.com. And that's the episode today, folks. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast and give us a review and share this, please. And if you know anyone who might be ready to franchise their business, or you're ready to talk more about maybe franchising your business, check us out at bigskyfranchiseteam.com. And thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to having you back on the next episode.